Okay, I'm live there. Thank you so much.
Forbes India presents AWS The Mavericks in association with Matrix Partners India.
Hello and welcome to the Mavericks Founder Chats, a series of conversations from Forbes India presented by AWS in association with Matrix Partners India. Why have we called this show the Mavericks? Because our guests are thought leaders, the digital native entrepreneurs who are willing to break the rules and the status quo to drive change. And in the process, solve some of our most pressing problems with tech-driven innovations and leadership. Today's Mavericks founder is an entrepreneur who became one long before startups and venture capital came into fashion. It was way back in 1999 that Vipul Parekh, along with four others, launched an online retail business called FabMart. And a few years later, a chain of physical retail malls in South India called Fab Mall. Yes, that was 2 decades ago. They eventually sold that business only to come back stronger, armed with that early mover advantage and experience. In 2011, the same bunch founded BigBasket to sell groceries online. A decade later, backed by heady growth, BigBasket is grossing sales of over $1 billion, and this may only be the beginning. Vipul will tell us about the journey so far and what lies ahead for BigBasket. Joining us in this conversation is Sachin Chawla, Head of Digital Native Businesses for India and Southeast Asia at AWS. Sachin will enlighten us on the role of technology in the growth of DNBs, as well as give us his own insights on leadership and tackling the COVID-19 crisis. So let me start with Vipul. Vipul, BigBasket was started in 2011, but its origins go back to the late 90s when five of you started FabMart,
Right.
which would have been India's first e-commerce venture, if I'm not mistaken. So perhaps, Vipul, you could take us back to that period when the internet was rather still a novelty. Two questions. What was the plan then? And what lessons from that venture came handy when launching BigBasket?
Brian, thanks first for having me here today. Like you said, this was a long time back, and I think the only thing that explains it, there is a saying, "Fools rush in where angels fear to tread," and I think this was more true of us than anybody else. 99 was very, very early for the internet space in India. Uh, there was a huge amount of momentum and news about how the internet would expand, how many dial-up lines would actually get laid if you would have digital broadband. But this was still a world where the primary access for customers and for even enterprises to the internet was via a dial-up line. So it was very early, and I think we realized how early, just in about 2 to 3 years of the business. But amazingly, the funny thing is, what it taught us a lot about customers. Customers are very happy to get online delivery, and this is way back in '99, where you would actually log in, wait for the phone line to actually connect, and it went through that tip, 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 tip. Then finally it connected. Then one page would load in about 2 seconds. And now, if you actually a page loads in 2 seconds, you will actually probably close the website and walk away, right? You're not used to waiting at all. And people would wait. They would actually take 20 minutes to finish their grocery shopping online or anything that they were buying for, and then wait for the delivery to come after 1 week. And they loved the service. So it was amazing how quickly people got used to the service. But we realized, as we went through the business, that this was not going to go anywhere, primarily because the base of customers coming online was still very, very small. And aside of the top 4 or 5 cities, where it was not very significant, the rest of the country was a complete blank. So we said, this is not going to work. So we did a pivot where we went from being an online retailer to becoming an offline retailer. We're probably the only internet company who to do a completely reverse pivot, where we closed our online business and we said we'll start an offline business. And for the offline business, we chose grocery because we said this is the largest market that exists in India. And there were just one or two large players then. There was Food World, which is the RPG dairy farm, dairy venture in India. And that was the only organized player. And we said, this is a great market. We should actually start a offline chain of stores. And since we have learned a little bit of grocery, selling it online, maybe this is a good time to start this. But remember, we had no idea of how to actually run a physical store. None of us had absolutely had any experience in physical retail. We came from the IT industry. I came from Wipro. My colleagues came from Wipro and Planet Asia and Bas and other tech services. So we had absolutely no idea. So we built this entire business of physical stores called FabMall from first principles. And because we knew tech, we brought a lot of tech into it. And that helped us in terms of inventory control, in terms of customer experience, in terms of just offering a better assortment, better fill rates, better customer experience, all of that. And the stores worked brilliantly. In fact, from the time I remember one of our first stores we opened in Kormangala on 80 Feet Road in Bangalore. And Kormangala those days used to be a dark, dingy road, which was not even lit. And we start this store at about 6 o'clock in the evening. And at about 8 o'clock in the night, I'm actually standing outside the store apologizing to customers who are standing in the queue to buy, saying that it's going to take some time. Please wait. Don't go home. We'll make sure that what you bought gets built, and that you can get going. So, and then we knew that this is really a business for which the time had come. You could see product market fit live in action. And so we built that business, and that was a great learning experience. We had no experienced people in retail to recruit from. We had no technology to buy from anywhere in the world. It was just too expensive for us. So we built the entire tech stack. We built the entire supply chain. We had no idea of how to actually go and source from FMCG suppliers or from farmers or from anybody else. So we learned all of that, built that entire supply chain stack. And I think that experience of building a business from the ground up and then scaling it to about 400 stores across the south of India. Eventually, we sold that in late 2006 to the Birlas, and that became more, and which is what continues today. And amazingly, more got acquired by Amazon, as you know, a couple of years back. So it's like comes full circle sometimes. So it was quite an interesting journey. I think it really taught us a lot about consumer behavior because we were standing in the store and watching how customers bought groceries. And we're doing this day in and day out, particularly in the initial days. And that actually, really give us a sort of a bird's eye view into how the Indian customer looked at groceries, what they look for when they were actually buying, how do they navigate the store, which is very different from Western customers, incidentally, or what we had been taught from retail books. And so all of that really contributed to a body of learning, which became very useful when we went back and started BigBasket. And the BigBasket journey started because we said, we have done online retail, didn't go anywhere, and we finally had to shut it down. We did offline retail, which went somewhere, and maybe now is the time to go back to online. The timing is right. India's adopting broadband. Flipkart's already sizable. This is the time that customers will buy groceries. So we started BigBasket in 2011, and it was still very early. Right. Even now, when I think back, it was still a very courageous decision to go and sell groceries online. And I remember one of our first investor meetings, and we were trying to raise capital because this business requires capital. And this was a large celebrated investor who came into our office. We made the pitch to him, and halfway through, he fell asleep. So then we realized, okay, this is going to be much harder than we thought it would be. And it was, but it's been an amazing journey.
Right. So when did that inflection point come about? When you knew that you are in business now? After 2008?
Actually, the inflection, the realization that this was going to work was always there because we knew how customers bought. But it hit us quite hard when we realized that in the first 1 year, we launched in Bangalore. First 1 year, we couldn't build capacity fast enough to meet customer demand.
Right.
So we knew, okay, this is going to work. This is not, customers are ready for it, irrespective of what anybody thinks. Indian customers are very happy to get groceries online. And the biggest fear that most people had, will they buy fresh fruits and vegetables? They'll never buy fresh fruits and vegetables online. And we had fresh fruits and vegetables from day one because we are very sure that they would. And surprisingly, the customers bought fresh fruits and vegetables in every order. And all customers bought them. And it continues, it was our largest category, continues to be our largest category, even today.
Right.
So I think we've laid rest to that myth, that customers have to, pump and press and prick all the vegetables before they can be convinced that this is quality that they can take home.
Right. Okay, let me bring in Sachin from AWS, who has been working closely with grocery retailers like BigBasket. Right, and let me fast forward to the COVID-induced lockdown. When daily traffic hit really crazy highs. Sachin, what was it like then during the lockdown period, and what was your role in actually managing that kind of daily new highs in traffic?
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously, I mean, different businesses, brands saw different patterns, right? I mean, there were businesses which, like Big Basket and grocery, and some of them which saw sudden demand. There were businesses which also struggled, and they saw a shortfall in demand, and the demand really went low. Um, Often we talk a lot about how we help businesses to scale and grow, but even for businesses which were struggling at that point in time, they could reduce their capacity because you're in the cloud. You can reduce your capacity and only pay for what you use, and so they use the benefit of cloud. If I take an example of I remember with Big Basket that point in time, the demand almost surged 6x. The daily traffic went from 250K orders to about 400,000 orders, and at that point in time we were working with Big Basket, and we quickly huddled and say, how do we get how can we help meet that peak capacity. The good news was that Big Basket at that point in time already going through a journey of from moving from a monolith app to a microservices based architecture, and the team really accelerated that journey at that point in time and moved fast, and went to a complete containerized architecture with 60 microservices um, within a span of few months. What microservices do is that they help you. It's like a loosely coupled architecture. They help developers test, change, their set of microservices, regardless, without disturbing the whole solution, and that really helped. That coupled with the auto scaling facility that is available on AWS, so the containerization with auto scaling really helped, meet that demand. And as I said, we went from 250K orders to 100K orders, daily orders. The uptime was about 99.9%, and Vipul was talking about 2 seconds. At that peak capacity, we could still maintain sub 350 millisecond of latency, for the app for consumers. So. And that is something you'll see with most retailers. Microservices-based architecture is one of the key factors, of building a digital commerce, platform, and it is the best practice.
Right. Right. Vipul, from the ground, how would you describe the hyperactivity of the lockdown? Were you anticipating such traffic levels at that
No,
time?
I don't think anybody saw this coming. This was a sudden
Right.
lockdown, and I think, and amazingly, what happened was we just shut down for a week, and we never experienced this, and there was absolutely no way to get going. Everything was locked down. You couldn't reach people, you couldn't communicate, you couldn't get facilities open. But amazingly, from that 1 week of complete lockdown, uh, 3 months later, we ended with the highest numbers of that we ever done. And in a situation where most of our competition really sort of crumbled or found it very hard to get back on their feet and get back up. So it was a very challenging time because of multiple things. One, we didn't have enough people. A lot of our workforce actually panicked and ran away either to their native places, or they ran off home, or the parents said, "Don't go work right now; it's not safe." So we just had to we lost about 50% of our people. Now, effectively, for a retailer, that means we have 50% less capacity, and demand is 500%. So we are faced with a very crazy situation where the demand was 10x of normal. We had half of the people that we typically would have, and we had to recruit all of these new people, get them trained, get them working, and in a situation where you couldn't even call somebody for an interview, right? Because the situation is so bad that we couldn't even call anybody for an interview. We just couldn't do anybody. There was no public transport, so employees couldn't get to work. There is no way that if employees moved out without permission, they were quite likely to get beaten up by the police on the road. And so we had some really crazy situation on the ground. And then we realized that this was, we had to navigate this. So one of the first things we did as a company was we formed a war council, which was practically online most of the time. So most of the senior managers of the company got together. We were on phone, and we said we will take the situation city by city and figure out what we need to do. So one of the first things we realized that if we want to navigate this, we need to get in touch with the local administration and the central administration. There is absolutely no way that we are going to be able to manage if we are not able to speaking to the police commissioners in each of the cities. And in our life, we have not spoken to any police commissioners before because there's no need for it. And we realized that now the situation was such that if we can't reach these people, our ability to operate and even deliver to customers who are buying from us before was going to be very low. So in every city, we actually reached out to the police commissioners, spoke to them, told them this is what we're doing. And they were all, without exception, extremely forthcoming. In fact, they opened the gates for us. They said, you are delivering essentials. It is important that you guys continue your service. So they actually, for example, the police commissioner in Bangalore himself turned out to be a BigBasket customer. He said, I'll inform all my deputies that your vehicles should be allowed. That there should be unencumbered access. Even if these guys have a problem in terms of getting, you had permits. He said, if you have any problems of getting permits, my office will issue the permits required to make sure that your guys can travel and deliver. Got a significant amount of cooperation from local and central administration. But the lesson was, we had to do something we had never done before. We never interacted with government. So we had to learn how to, get access first and then actually meet them and then explain to them what we're doing and explain to them what we wanted to do. So I think that really helped. The second learning from the pandemic was, when you're faced with a situation like this, where you need to scale exponentially, there are three things which become very important. You need to have core processes which are very, very strong. You need to have a culture which is very strong. And we realized how strong these two were for BigBasket for the first time ourselves when this pandemic hit. Our core processes all held strong. So therefore, our inventory was available. We kept getting supplies. Where suppliers could not supply, we were able to actually muster vehicles, speak to them, arrange, get deliveries. All our core tech worked absolutely seamlessly. In fact, we had to put in some new stuff to make sure that we could actually introduce a token for customers, get a queue form. All of that worked brilliantly. And all the people who stayed back, and they actually spent a lot of time fixing every process to make sure we could scale. And I think that really made a difference. The combination of disaster management, which came through the process and the structural design that we had, and the fact that the people in the culture who rose to the occasion to really manage this made a huge difference. And when I say people, for example, one of the first things that we did, which was important, was train all employees, every one of them, including the drivers, the pickers, on what is COVID, what precautions they should take, how should they sanitize, why is it important to sanitize, how do you actually, approach a customer, what do you do, where do you leave the delivery, how do you leave the delivery and step back, you don't, get close to a customer, how to maintain distance, how to speak to customers during this period. So all of that, and this sounds very simple. It's very hard to execute on the ground, and that too facelessly. So, and surprisingly, Brian, you may find this funny. We realized that when we were training them, it was not as effective as getting actual doctors to come and talk about it. And when we got actual doctors to talk about this, they took it very seriously. They said, okay, I know I need to follow this. This is dangerous. I better make sure that this goes off perfectly. So we actually got doctors, trained them, saying, this is what you need to say, put them on video or on Zoom calls, and got them to train our warehouse staff and our delivery people. And that worked brilliantly. So sometimes simple, creative thinking solves a lot of difficult mindsets.
Sure. Sachin, how critical is it for retailers to be looking out for new technologies to deploy across their businesses, from the commerce part to supply chain to customer facing? We'll come to a few of these individually, but maybe you could give us a bird's eye view on the technology imperative for retailers?
Yeah, sure. So, I think you captured it with 2 or 3 areas. Technology for retailers is actually at the center of it. Whether it is whether you're creating smart stores using computer vision or AI, and some of those things what you see in Amazon stores, and a lot of the application of what happens in Amazon stores is now being done at different levels for different organizations doing it. Or you're creating a digital commerce platform, which includes things around recommendation, personalization, loyalty, customer loyalty, building solutions around that, or even omnichannel, for that matter. The third is the area around supply chain. How can you do things in the supply chain to make remove the friction and make the customer experience more and more much and more better. Let me give you 2 or 3 examples in each one of it. For example, in these smart stores area, there's actually a company called Perfect Corps. They are based out of Taiwan. They've actually developed a SaaS solution. They use SaaS solution where they use AI and augmented reality AR. Where you, let's say you're going and buying online a lipstick. Somebody's going and buying a lipstick, and she wants to see how it actually looks on her. So you can actually go and do that online. So it's a SaaS solution. That's an example of building smart stores on what is possible today on some of these with some of these solutions. Yeah, there are numerous examples on building personalization, or for example, Zappos, which is an online shoe retailer in the US. They've actually built they use AI, and they actually um, when you're going and searching for for a shoe, they give you personalized search. They'll also give you personalized recommendation on the shoe size and things like those, right? So that's just another example of building smart solutions with on digital commerce platform. On the supply chain side, people touched on more retail. So more actually operates, I think, about 22 hypermarkets, about more than 624 stores now. And when you're operating at that scale, it's very important to make sure that you have the products in your store, right? When the customer is coming, and forecasting becomes absolutely important. So they use Amazon Forecast and a partner solution from Garnet, where um, they forecast, and they build an automated ordering app. Instead of the store manager looking at the inventory and going and ordering, it's an automated app which uses the AI solution, and they are so they forecast, and the solution goes and orders, and they were able to take the forecasting accuracy 24 to 76%, and the in-store inventory accuracy of from 80 to 90%. So that's just an example of using AI for forecasting accurately stores.
Right. Right. We'll come back to some of these areas like supply chain and tools like machine learning and data analytics and all that. But before that, I want to ask Vipul about where we are today, as we seem to be headed back to normal times, with fingers crossed, of course, about the Omicron variant of the virus. But how much of the shift we've seen in consumer behavior so far during the pandemic will be here to stay? Do you see this online first model being a kind of permanent change for good?
Yeah, it is a permanent change, and I think there are two levels of change. Obviously, there are a lot of people who went to buying 100% online for groceries, for example, who will probably not be buying 100% going forward, and may probably have 50% online, or maybe 70-80% online, balance offline, or maybe 30% online, balance offline. But what's really the one fundamental change which has happened is that the number of new people who got exposed to online commerce, to doing transactions on the web, I think that has increased dramatically. And that's created this very fertile ground of new customers for all e-commerce businesses, not just us, every e-commerce business, every internet business, whether you look at fintech, whether you look at edutech, whether you look at e-commerce, all of them are benefiting from this. And this is a very large base of customers who have transacted for the first time, or have done some bill payment, or have made some payments, or have bought something somewhere because they couldn't buy offline. And so this base is now online for all practical purposes, and they will continue to grow. And they are actually becoming the nuclei for more and more people to come online.
Right. Right. So it's not as if offline will disappear. And people, correct me if I'm wrong, but going offline was always part of your business plan before the Tata acquisition, before the pandemic. So how will your stores be different from what exists out there? And how do you see this offline-online balance playing out?
Yeah, so if you look at grocery as a category, and China probably has the maximum penetration of online grocery, and they are at 15% today, right? So, and even if you look at India, we're at about 0.5 to 1%, depending on whose numbers you take, but we'll probably get to about 5 to 6% in the next 10 years. So by 2030, it'll be somewhere in the region of about 5 to 6%. If you get to 5 to 6%, that's a very, very large market. So you still have 95% of the market, which is outside online grocery. And that's the way the category is. It's just a very large category. Customers, this is a category where people come last online to buy, and people are very, very sticky in their behaviors. So therefore, going offline was always a part of the design. What we are doing differently is we are using our entire technology stack to make sure that we can build an experience which is very, very different for customers offline. So how do you do that? How do you actually bring the technology aspects of online retail to offline and make the customer experience and the business economics better? And which is what we're really attempting to do. So from a customer experience, we have seen the example of Amazon Go, which is one of the leading examples. You have Hama in China, which is very, very much like Amazon Go. Probably went live on before. And Alibaba used to be one of our investors. We visited a lot of their stores, seen the tech, and that is when the idea germinated that we should actually create similar stores in India, which are really experience centers. People can buy, they check out themselves, or you do a completely seamless checkout where a customer doesn't have a need to check out. So the entire quality of experience for the customer changes, right? Second, customers are told about what the store is. They can actually learn what's happening in the store, what's available in the store, even if they're sitting at home. They don't need to visit the store to know what's available in the store. Third, they also know at any point in time what are the best offers in the store. What is the stuff it's not available in store, but it's likely to come. What is the new stuff which has got added to store? So therefore, the amount of information that a customer can possess in these kind of offline stores is very, very high. It really empowers the customer to make a better decision. It allows them to choose what's best for them, and also makes the entire experience far more pleasurable. In fact, one of the things that we are building is telling customers what is the density of people in the store. So, for example, you're the kind of person who does not want to go when the store is packed. You can say, okay, this is high traffic right now. It's like Google Maps. It shows red, yellow, green, and tells you, okay, this is how much time you'll take to check out. Or this is how many people are in the store. So you actually have a live, people meter of the store available to every customer in that area. So stuff like that, which makes the entire customer experience very different, using technology to, make it seamless. So you reduce cost of operation, and using technology to really deliver just in time to the store. So inventory management, store costs, everything becomes much, much lower. And that results in better prices for customers. So therefore, the idea is to really build a virtuous cycle. Better prices, better experience, better technology.
So is it that the transaction happens online, or would you expect?
No, the transaction happens offline. It happens in the store. But in the background, it's happening online. So so the server is really, in that sense, the till is really connected to the cloud. Or your cart is connected to the cloud, yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Sachin, how do you see this mix of physical and digital playing out? And what role does AWS have to play in delivering a seamless omni-channel experience?
Yeah, I think, whether you're an offline retailer or online retailer, the goal for every retailer is to really remove the friction, get better customer experience. And in the process, you can also reduce cost and give. Nobody wants to pay more for a product, and if you can also do that, that's the icing on the cake. For years, I think retailers have tried using legacy technology and marry them, and try to generate an omni-channel experience, but it hasn't worked, Brian. What cloud has actually done is provided a platform, which gives you the reliability, the scalability, the security that you would need to build such platforms. And retail by definition is seasonal too, right? I mean, there are peak periods, there are lean periods, and cloud is really very suitable for that application. So I think one is the reliability and the scalability and the security and that the cloud offer. The second is you have all the tools available on the cloud, right? I mean, you want to use data analytics, you want to do machine learning, all the platforms are really, really mature. So you can use the right tool to do what you want, and you can really innovate faster. I'll also touch upon 2-3 areas. I think as you think about omni-channel, yeah, and I spoke about it before, that you have to think of some of the imperatives, right? You can't create an omni-channel platform online and offline unless you're really your services are really set up in a microservices fashion. And that doesn't mean technologically, but also the way you're set up inside the organization, right? So, have you set up in a microservices way? Are you using containerized, containers to put it in a microservices fashion, like BigBasket did with 60 microservices? Because then you can move faster, right? Everybody can just work on their microservice, develop the capabilities, and move faster without worrying about the whole solution. The third is the data stores. The legacy applications were built on relational databases. We have moved very, very far. The data requirements are very, very different. Relational databases don't work anymore. So you really need data stores which can handle that amount of capacity, and are purpose built for the application that you built, right? I mean, if you want to do fraud, you can use graph database. For large data, you can use NoSQL database, and so on and so forth. So you have to look for those capabilities, and all of those capabilities are available on the cloud. Right? For AWS, we offer almost about 15 databases now, 15 flavors of databases. So I think that's the third one. I think the other one also is, how can you use serverless? World is moving from, why should I even manage servers, right? And while it may not be the right use case for the right solution for every use case, but some for some use cases, for example, for peak loads, why can't I just use serverless? So I know what my base capacity is. Can I just use serverless for peak loads and just burst out and then come back and use the auto scaling or the scalability of the cloud platform? So all of this, you have to think about these 3, 4, or 5 things, which are very key if you want to build an online and offline platform. I'm talking from a more technology perspective, and all of this is available in the cloud. So it makes it really, really easy to build solutions, get these Lego blocks together, try it out, see what works for you. If this doesn't work, you go for another solution that's available. So I think cloud is played a great leveler in that fashion to make this work.
Sure. Great. Thanks. Okay, before we move ahead, I would request the audience to send in your questions for Vipul or Sachin, or for both of them also. So please send in some questions. We'll take them towards the end of this discussion. Okay, so moving on, Vipul, let me come to your farmer sourcing program, Farmer Connect. How is that coming along, and what are the benefits that both BigBasket and farmers are deriving from it?
So I think when we, like I told you before, we started with offering fruits and vegetables, and we realized that as we scaled, it was impossible for us to buy the quality and the quantity we wanted from local markets, because it's just not available. Either you didn't have the right quality or you didn't have the right price, and both ways it was becoming a mess. So years back, we set up a nationwide farmer connect program, which now extends to about 30,000 farmers across the country, and this is across the length and breadth of the country. We have, the way this chain operates is that we have 80 collection centers across the country. These collection centers are manned by trained agronomists employed by BigBasket, right? And these people actually work. They're like client relationship managers for the farmers. So therefore, each of these agronomists has a bunch of farmers that he works with, and the farmers supply to the collection centers. The produce comes to the collection center. It gets weighed, graded, checked for quality, and then actually gets processed, and then gets sent, depending on where the demand is, to each of our distribution centers across the country. And from the distribution centers, it'll go to reprocessing, repackaging, cleaning, all of that, and then it goes to customers. So therefore, the farmers get paid directly, centrally, within 24 hours of delivery. And we've had this. So all our farmers are banked. They all have Jan Dhan accounts. Everybody gets paid in 24 hours. The other thing we did was we run a portal for pricing, which the farmers have access to, which captures prices prevailing on a daily basis for each of these fruits and vegetables in each of the major markets in the country. Excuse me. So the farmers therefore have access to this price. They know what price it's selling there. And we actually offer buying price to customers based on that, to farmers based on that price. So at any point in time, it's absolutely transparent to farmers. They know this is the price I'm going to get from BigBasket. They are liberty to buy it, to sell to us, or not to sell to us, and they can go and sell to somebody else. And we actually give them a premium of about 8 to 9% over what they would get if they were to actually go and deliver to a mandi and sell themselves. So the farmer gets, guaranteed offtake. He gets better prices, gets paid within 24 hours. So the farmers really love this because this is really works for them. And this is what binds them to BigBasket. So they're very loyal. They supply to us. They work with us in terms of improving quality. One of the things we learned when we started doing this program, much to a surprise, is that most farmers don't know farming, which sounds a bit of a weird statement to make. But the fact is that they have not been exposed to any new technologies for a very long time. They've been doing what their grandfather was doing without any change in the same farm. And today you have soil conservation technologies, you have soil improvement technologies, you have higher yield products which are available, you have non-chemical fertilizers. There is just so much that you can do to improve the yield in a farm. There's so much you can do to actually manage the farm better. There's so much you can do to improve the quality of the products that come out. And therefore, what we have started doing is setting up model farms, training the farmers on how they should actually adopt some of these technologies so that their yields become better. They can actually get far more out of the farm than they could before. And so therefore, that has started happening. And that again binds them to us, gives them value addition. And so today, 85% of what we sell in fresh fruits and vegetables comes direct from farm. We don't buy locally mostly, unless there are very small local quantities of vegetables. Most of it, or fruits which we import, most of it comes directly from farmers. And that gives us guaranteed supply, guaranteed quality, and make sure that we are able to price it very, very attractively.
Right. Okay, Sachin, perhaps you could weigh in on the importance of new technologies, specifically at the supply chain end, and how that contributes to building a flexible tech platform.
Sure. So, at the supply chain, there are different things. I mean, there are 2 or 3 major use cases, Brian. The first one is transforming the demand planning, right? I mean, demand planning in any retailer for any retailer plays a very critical role. So you can use a lot of the machine learning tools to capture and analyze data, from different sources, create forecasts, and then be able to accurately or consistently and accurately improve the forecast accuracy and do forecasting. The second use cases are around building next gen warehouse operations, which I spoke about. How can you optimize your warehouse systems using cloud tools, applications from AWS, and which are specifically designed for retailers. The third one is how do you gain visibility across the end-to-end, of your supply chain? Because customers are now moving between your channels. Sometimes they go and buy from the store, sometimes buy online. How do you use data to recognize that customers and integrate your digital and physical stores together and help you deliver a consistent brand experience across a range of customers and touchpoints? So these are three primarily areas of use cases. I mean, they're obviously not simple, but you can go deeper and what you were trying to create and use the right solutions.
Right. Okay. Coming back to Vipul, let's talk about this express delivery service part of the business that you are going to get into soon. That's delivering in 10 to 20 minutes. Right. And already there are quite a few guys already doing it. There's Grofers, Swiggy, with Instamart, Dunzo, Zepto. Right. So I mean, what's going to set BigBasket apart from the rest? Right.
So I think if you look at it, the entire premise of quick grocery is based on a small assortment, fast delivery. And so therefore, really, you are addressing a target segment which hitherto was buying either from the kirana store or was going and picking it up from the nearby shop. And that's a very large market. As we saw, India, everybody buys from kirana stores. They are a dime a dozen in every locality, and they have a significant share of the entire grocery market. So that's the market that the quick grocery really addresses. because it's a small assortment, 600, 700,000 SKUs. And so it's not what, let's say, a hypermarket like more offers, or a Reliance superstore offers, or any of the large grocers offer. That part of it is done by the BigBasket service, which we have today.
Right.
The quick grocery really addresses this small assortment, quick delivery part of it. So therefore, coming back to why do we need it? We need it because this is something which really addresses the top-up requirements of the customer. So order sizes are small, but customers, you ran out of a packet of Lay's, you want some cigarettes at night, you want, maybe bread and butter in the morning, and all of this gets delivered to you in quick time. You don't have to plan for it. This is something that you always either picked up the phone and ordered, or you walk down to the store and bought it. So that's the service there. I think the difference that BigBasket brings to something like this is it really complements the entire offering. So to our customers, we'll offer quick grocery. So if you want top up, you can go to quick grocery. We'll offer a much larger assortment in 1 to 2 hours, and which is another service that we are introducing very soon. And then we have a traditional service which offers the largest assortment of any grocer in the country, and which gives you same day, next day. So therefore, you have the best of both worlds. You have access to this entire selection of channels. You pick and choose where you want to buy from and when do you want to buy it. That's the one. The second thing is our entire supply chain comes into play. So if you look at fresh today, we have a supply chain extending back to farm. Everybody else is still figuring out what is fresh. So therefore, our ability to price it better, our ability to offer better quality is significantly superior. And while it's not that somebody else can't do this is not rocket science. It's just that it'll take time for people to learn. It's something that we've perfected a lot of time, over a significant period of time. Third are operational metrics. So we've been in this business for a long time. So we have a large infra on the ground. We understand how this business operates, the tech stacks. So we deliver in time. We're always bang on time. Our on-time delivery today runs at 99.3, 99.4%. Our fill rate runs at 99.6, 99.7%. And these metrics, which are some of the best in the world. I'm not talking about just India. I would benchmark with anybody in the world on these metrics. So I think these when you bring to this service, where you have guaranteed on-time delivery, you deliver a great assortment, you deliver great quality, really offering more than anybody else can offer.
Right. And if you look at the online grocery space, it's also a very crowded space, right? I mean, besides all the names I mentioned, you also have Amazon there. I know at the outset you mentioned that the penetration is really low and we barely scratched the surface. Right, but realistically, is there space for so many players in the market today? Or do you see a consolidation?
The largest retail market in India is grocery. So it's a $400 billion market, growing at about 10% CAGR every year. So it adds on more in a year than most e-commerce players do in a year, right? So think of it that way. It's a really mammoth business. So therefore, I think there is space for enough, and there will be, because I don't think any single player will be able to do justice. This is not a one. If you look at grocery across the world, it's always been multiplayer, whether it's offline, online, even in China, which is so concentrated, it is still multiplayer. So I think that will replicate itself. You'll have 3 to 4 players with varying market shares. And I think that's going to happen, like it or not, in this business. It's very unlikely for any one player to get the entire market.
Do you think the entire market would get carved out on a regional level, as in somebody very strong in the north, somebody dominating in the south? Are we likely to see that kind of breakup, or do you think national players are here to stay? Sorry.
In offline retailing, it's always been like that, where people have very strong geographies. Every retailer has geographies that are very strong in, or geographies that they're not so strong in. But online, I don't think it's going to be like that. Online is going to be a lot by service. Somebody like Swiggy is going to say, I'm really going to bet on the quick grocery service. I'm really going to do focus all my energies. Amazon is going to say, I'm going to be everywhere, like us, or Reliance is going to be everywhere. Right? So you'll have people who say, okay, I offer all the services. I may even be offline retail. Amazon is also an offline retail. Via Spencer's, we would be Reliance is anyway offline. We'll be offline. We'll be building our own offline chain. So there will be people who will be omnichannel. There will be people who will be focused on the entire online retail stack, and then will be people who will just pick small pockets of it and say, okay, this is where I do what I do. So you are going to find differing strategies there, and I think a lot will depend on the capability, the capital that they can build, the capability of the team itself to deliver it, the brand itself, whether it can sustain all of it. That's really going to be the challenge.
Sure. Sachin, this hyperlocal approach to inventory, something that BigBasket follows, I suppose it's kind of heavily dependent on technology. So what is it that AWS has to offer on this front?
Yeah, I mean, obviously from the tech stack, we do work with like BigBasket in helping. Hyperlocal is at the center of what they do, and it's again goes back to sales forecasting, right? And making sure that you have local warehouses and making sure you're able to forecast the demand beforehand, and what kind of demand is serving in a particular area. So you can use a lot of data and data analytics to do that. One of our service, which is Elasticsearch, Amazon Elasticsearch, it helps you with these, geo analysis and able to get that data and able to predict and what kind of demand and what kind of products and SKUs that are coming from a particular area. It also helps you, because you have all the data. It also helps you plan for new stores or new warehouses where you want to do. So it's there's a lot of it's not one solution. There are a lot of things that come together. One is what BigBasket doing at the process level, and then how technology is helping, in capturing the right data and in doing so.
Right. Okay, Vipul, this conversation would be incomplete if you don't talk about the Tata digital acquisition. So, two questions here. Basically, how did it come about, and how has life changed, if at all, post acquisition?
So it came about quite by chance, actually. We were on our merry way, and I think somewhere the Tatas reached out, and then we had a conversation, and the goals sort of seemed aligned. We are on our way to building a large grocery business, and Tatas were very keen on participating in this business and having that as part of their portfolio. So that seemed, and they were great people to work with. So it just we got along with them very well. We felt this was the right thing for us to do, and this is something that we would really enjoy doing together. So that's how it came about, and it's been a very nice relationship. I think they are very Tatas are very the brand stands for a lot, significant history and legacy behind it, and I think not without reason. They've really done a lot for the country. They continue to have very strong ambitions in terms of building better solutions for customers, better services for customers. And I think this BigBasket sort of fitted into their entire philosophy, into their entire digital game plan.
Right. Okay, we're still expecting some audience questions, so please send in your questions. We just have about less than 15 minutes to go. So look forward to getting some questions. Back to Vipul. Vipul, this IPO mania, or rather mayhem, if you wish. I mean, do you sometimes look back and feel probably that would have been a path worth taking when you see the IPOs that are launched so far in the next?
Yeah, see, the issue is like this. For founders like us, where you're not selling the business and going, I think obviously you're really thinking of access to capital. Right. If you think in terms of access to capital today, the private markets are equally benevolent. So whether you raise capital to private markets or whether you raise to public markets, both seem to work very well. Valuations, if in the private markets, are, if anything, far more, let me say, optimistic than they are in the public markets, even today.
Okay.
So therefore, I think it's a great place as a founder to be, especially if you have a business which has scaled or is about to scale, or you can demonstrate it can scale. You can have significant access to capital. So I think that solves the problem. So therefore, we don't have any. We don't necessarily need to be public. Being public also brings its own challenges when you're building a large business. We are still on a very early stage in terms of grocery. We're about $1 billion plus, a little bit here and there, and this is going to be a $10 billion business in the next 5 years. Now, if you need to get there, there's a lot of work that we need to do in terms of building this business, and sometimes some of this thing is best done outside of public scrutiny, where you are, you don't have quarter-to-quarter challenges where you need to make sure that your gross margin or your contribution or your net profit is exactly what you predicted, plus minus 1%, that your customer growth, number of MAUs are exactly what you predicted. Because when you're building such a large business, there are so many things can go wrong, so many things go right. And so it's a bit of a sine wave. And if you're in a public market with a sine wave, it's not a great place to be. It can really upset the balance. So in that sense, I think we are quite happy that we are outside that mania. But having said that, I think it's doing a lot for the startup ecosystem in the country. And I think it's a great thing to happen, because it really provides significant financial incentives. It's creating a whole new generation of founders. It's creating a whole new generation of investors who are now coming and investing in the country. So that really just it bodes, it augurs well for a country.
Sure. Sachin, wondering if you would want to give your view on this ambition of the Tatas to build a super app of offering everything from food and groceries to financial products to consumer durables, all via one app.
Yeah.
How do you see that panning out?
Well, the jury's still out. I think it's a good idea. If you see most of the digital businesses, right, they're built on few basic tenets, right? So one is definitely selection. So you give customers more selection. You give customers convenience. In the process, you also lower cost, as you acquire more customers and pass on the benefits and so on and so forth. So if you look at this, the app, it's going, it will offer more selection because it's one-stop shop. You can go for different needs. It'll offer convenience because they are all digital businesses. But it still need to be seen how it pans out, because what happens is we already have some established brands in each one of these, each or leaders, and brands in each one of these solutions that are the use cases the customers are going for, and everyone have their preferences, right? For example, if you talk about food, I may think of Zomato and Swiggy. If I talk about grocery, I may think of BigBasket or Grofers or so on and so forth, right? So people already kind of have their own favorites, and have those apps on their phones, and they'll use it. So it still needs to be seen that what value other than is there an additional incremental enough value on convenience and selection, and also on cost to draw people to use that one super app. But it's an idea worth trying for sure.
Sure. Okay. So Sachin, I've asked Vipul a lot of questions on competition. I thought I should ask you something similar on the competition in the cloud space, and primarily from Alibaba Cloud, which one reads reports that it's more flexible and cheap. Is that true? And do you consider Alibaba Cloud as a significant competitor?
Well, I would say a broad set of customers, a broad set of businesses choose AWS for their needs. And Brian, there are number of reasons why they choose and work with AWS, right? I mean, I think the first and foremost is the amount of breadth and depth of services we have. We have more than 200 plus fully functional services, that we offer on the platform. Just in compute, we offer more than 400 different types of instances. If you look at containers, we offer Kubernetes managed service and ECS if you want to use, if you want to stay closer to the native AWS services, we offer serverless. So just the breadth and depth of the platform is very, very, very wide. I think the other thing also is we're really innovating at a very fast pace. If you look at in 2011, we came up with about 80 new services. If you fast forward 2020, we've added about 2,757 new features, functionality. So by each year we're going and innovating more and more and offering, and then these are across compute, machine learning, AI, databases, IoT. All across the spectrum that you have. And I think the other one also is the experience that we have. We internally say there's no, and I think people will agree to it, that creating something so large, there's no compression algorithm for experience, right? I mean, you can't just compress. You have to really do it to make it work. So for us, it's running these massive, large data centers and running these services which can span across the IT domain. Is not easy. And to then offer the amount of reliability that customers like BigBasket or any native business rely on us, and be with us for years. It takes a lot of experience and to have the reliability, performance, security, and so on. So I think that's another reason. And lastly, I would say I think it's the culture. We're very different compared to other providers. 90% of our products come from feedback that we get from customers, which is huge. And we also hire certain kind of people who are, we call builders, who are working with customer backward, trying to figure out what can we do better, where are there gaps, what can we create new, so on innovation. So I would say a broad set of customers choose us over competition.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. Vipul, just looking at the numbers now, I think you have seen some crazy growth, and FY22 may indeed be a record year in terms of the top line. What about profits? Is that something that you all agonize over? Is kind of getting into the black a priority in the short to medium term?
No, so I think the good part of our business has been the way we built this business. We have always been contribution margin positive for the longest of time.
Okay.
So therefore, what that essentially means for everybody is that we make money on every order. We make money before all our operating expenses. The only thing we don't cover today is our corporate expenses. So salaries of people like me and our tech team is essentially what we don't cover. So that's something which will happen with scale. So therefore, we are really not too worried about it. And this in the face of fairly strong competition. We are fighting Amazon, Reliance, and in your dreams, you don't want competition like this, right? In your nightmares, you don't want competition like these. Obviously, fairly entrenched, very high quality competition. So therefore, I think in spite of that, I think we have gained market share. We have done. We continue to be extremely profitable on a per order basis, and therefore, I think we continue to believe that this is a very good business to be in. The common myth is grocery is a very low margin business. It is not. It's actually run well. It's a very large business, and you can make substantial money. Witness Walmart, who's the most profitable retailer in the world. But obviously, it has to be executed at scale, and it has to be operated very, very meticulously, in a very process-oriented way with very high metrics. That's the only way that you can really make money in this business.
Okay. What's the best case scenario for gross margins?
Gross margins are pretty high. Our gross margins even today are 20% plus. We'll probably be the least I would model is probably 24-25%.
Okay.
So gross margins tend to be pretty high in this business, and that's also a function of the way we are engineered. If you look at it, 40% of BigBasket is private label. These are own brands or own products that we source or we supply. Only 60% is really what you source from other people.
Right.
So that drives the gross margin.
Sure. We've got barely 2 minutes to go, so I'll just, I think we'll do a wrap-up question with both of you. I mean, Vipul, you could probably tell us what is the current share of online and grocery in retail, and then probably a forecast by 2030. Where do you see the online share?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 0.5 to about 1% today. Like I said earlier, of the overall grocery market, we expect to be about 5 to 6% by 2030. So that's it'll roughly grow about 10x from here over the next 8-9 years.
And how would that place us internationally compared to, say, US and China?
It would be actually very, we would still be significantly lesser than China. China in the same period would probably be about, my guess is 20 to 23%. So about almost a quarter. We would still be very low compared to that. US is still small. I think if you do about 5 to 6%, US may be about 7 or 8. It's not going to be much higher than that.
Okay. Sachin, what trends do you foresee?
Sorry, the question was for grocery or for online retail overall?
Online grocery retail, yeah.
Online grocery. I think, I'll concur with. I can't go against people. I think he knows the best, but mine, I have no idea. I was thinking about the online retail. If I draw a parallel, online retail will be like about 5% currently, 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
I think by 2030. Maybe 20%, it should be around 20%, my thing. So if I go with the same parallel, when you said about 1%, so 5%, 4 times, 5 times,
Sure.
to where it is.
Yeah.
Great. And I don't think we'll need another pandemic to rev that up. So
Fingers crossed.
Okay, great. Thanks, gentlemen. It's been a great pleasure talking. And I think the takeaway clearly is that we've just about scratched the surface, and there's a long way to go for online retail and for online grocery retail. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Vipul. It's been great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Forbes India presents AWS The Mavericks in association with Matrix Partners India.